Top 10 Most Important Battles in U.S. History. War has shaped every corner of American history. On battlefields soaked in blood and courage, the very soul of the United States was forged. From ragtag militias taking on empires to brothers turning their guns on each other, every major chapter of this nation was written in smoke, fire, and sacrifice. Today we're diving into the top 10 most important battles in U.S. history, the turning points that changed everything. Stick around, because number 1 will blow your mind. 10. Battle of New Orleans, 1815. Kicking us off at number 10 is the Battle of New Orleans, the final major battle of the War of 1812, and an absolute game-changer. Even though the war had technically ended with the Treaty of Ghent, slow communication meant Andrew Jackson and his ragtag army of militia, pirates, and free black soldiers hadn't gotten the memo. Facing a veteran British force, Jackson's men turned swampy terrain into a fortress, annihilating the enemy and making Jackson a national hero overnight. It was a defining moment of American resilience and pride. Yes, Battle of Saratoga, 1777. Coming in at number 9 is the Battle of Saratoga, the first major American victory in the Revolutionary War, and the battle that changed everything. British General Burgoyne's plan to cut the colonies in half fell apart in the dense woods of upstate New York. American forces, under Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold, surrounded and crushed the British, and the world took notice. This victory convinced France to join the war on the American side, turning a rebellion into an international war and giving the Patriots a fighting chance. Number 8. Battle of Gettysburg, 1863. Number 8 is the thunderous Battle of Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. Over 50,000 men fell over 3 brutal days in Pennsylvania, where the fate of the Union teetered on the edge. Robert E. Lee's gamble to strike deep into Union territory ended in disaster, especially after Pickett's charge, the suicidal Confederate assault that became the stuff of legend. Gettysburg wasn't just a Union victory, it was the beginning of the end for the Confederacy. On D-Day, Battle of Normandy, 1944. At number 7, we jump to the cliffs of Normandy, France. D-Day, June 6, 1944, America's finest hour in World War II. Operation Overlord saw the largest amphibious invasion in history, with American, British, and Canadian forces storming Nazi-occupied beaches. The U.S. hit hard at Utah and Omaha, facing brutal resistance and staggering losses. But the beachhead was secured, and the drive to liberate Europe had begun. Without D-Day, the world might look very different today. Battle of Midway, 1942. Number 6 takes us to the vast Pacific Ocean, where 4 minutes changed the war. The Battle of Midway was the ultimate David versus Goliath moment. After the shock of Pearl Harbor, American code breakers uncovered Japan's next move. What followed was a stunning ambush. U.S. dive bombers sank 4 Japanese carriers, crippling their naval strength. It was the turning point in the Pacific theater, and the beginning of Japan's slow but certain defeat. You've Battle of Yorktown, 1781. At number 5, we return to the Revolution with the Battle of Yorktown, the final major conflict of the war. Surrounded by American and French forces on land, and cut off by the French Navy at sea, British General Cornwallis surrendered his entire army. The drums of defeat echoed all the way to London. With the surrender at Yorktown, American independence wasn't just a dream, it was a reality. The 4. Battle of Antietam, 1862. The 4th most important battle? Antietam, the single bloodiest day in American military history. Over 22,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing by sunset. Though tactically inconclusive, it halted Lee's invasion of the North and gave President Lincoln the opening he needed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. Suddenly, the war wasn't just about preserving the Union. It was a fight to end slavery. And that changed everything. 3. Battle of Incheon, 1950. At number 3 is a lesser-known but incredibly bold move, The Battle of Incheon in the Korean War. General Douglas MacArthur launched a daring amphibious assault behind enemy lines, cutting off North Korean forces and recapturing Seoul in just weeks. It was a strategic masterpiece that turned the tide of the war, proving that even in the modern era, boldness can still define a battlefield. Battle of the Bulge, 1944-1945. Second on our list is the brutal Battle of the Bulge, the last major Nazi offensive of World War II. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes, American troops were ambushed in a desperate German attack. Outnumbered and surrounded, they held the line. Towns like Bastogne became symbols of American grit, as the 101st Airborne refused to break. This was Hitler's last gasp, and the Allied victory sealed Germany's fate. There were won Battle of Lexington and Concord, 1775. And finally, number 1, the Battle of Lexington and Concord. The shot heard round the world. When British troops marched to seize weapons from colonial militias, they were met with resistance, first at Lexington, then at Concord. What began as a skirmish exploded into open war. These were the first battles of the American Revolution, the moment colonists stopped being subjects and started becoming citizens. Without Lexington and Concord, there is no United States. From muddy fields to distant islands, these battles weren't just military conflicts. They were turning points in our collective story. They forged a nation, preserved a union, and defended freedom across the globe. Which battle do you think had the greatest impact? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives into America's epic history. Until next time, stand tall, stay curious, and keep the fire of history burning.